In a small village called Amara, there was a famous cook named Mama Uche. Everyone knew Mama Uche because she made the most delicious jollof rice, egusi soup, and puff puff. People would travel from faraway places just to taste her food. She had a small restaurant in the middle of the village, and it was always full of people, but Mama Uche had a secret. A very dark and scary secret. She was not just a cook, she was an evil cook who had strange powers. Every night, when the moon was high in the sky, Mama Uche would go into the forest and talk to spirits. These spirits gave her special ingredients that made her food taste so good, but there was a terrible price to pay. One day, a young girl named Ada moved to the village with her family. Ada was very curious and loved to explore new places. When she heard about Mama Uche's famous restaurant, she begged her mother to take her there. Her mother agreed, and they went to the restaurant to eat. When they arrived, the smell of Mama Uche's food made Ada's mouth water. They ordered some jollof rice and puff puff, and it tasted even better than they imagined. But as they were eating, Ada noticed something strange. There was a small, old book on the shelf behind Mama Uche's counter. The book had strange symbols on the cover, and Ada felt a chill run down her spine when she looked at it. That night, Ada couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about the old book and the strange feeling she got from it. So, she decided to find out more. The next day, she told her best friend, Chidi, about the book. Chidi was a brave boy who loved adventures, so he agreed to help Ada. After school, they sneaked into the village library to see if they could find anything about the strange book. They searched and searched until they found a very old and dusty book that talked about powerful magic and evil spirits. It mentioned a cook who used dark magic to make her food taste better, but at a terrible cost. Ada and Chidi were scared, but they knew they had to do something. If Mama Uche was using dark magic, she could be putting the whole village in danger. They decided to keep an eye on her and find out what she was up to. That night, when everyone was asleep, Ada and Chidi sneaked out of their houses and followed Mama Uche to the forest. They hid behind a large tree and watched as Mama Uche stood in the middle of a circle of stones. She opened the old book and started to chant strange words. The wind began to blow fiercely, and the trees shook as if they were alive. Suddenly, a shadowy figure appeared in front of Mama Uche. It was tall and terrifying, with glowing red eyes. The figure handed Mama Uche a small, glowing bottle filled with a mysterious liquid. Mama Uche quickly hid the bottle in her basket and hurried back to her restaurant. Ada and Chidi were so frightened that they could barely move. But they knew they had to act fast. The next day, they came up with a plan to sneak into Mama Uche's restaurant and take the bottle. They hoped that by taking it, they could stop her evil magic. When they arrived at the restaurant, it was busier than ever. People were laughing and enjoying their meals, not knowing the danger they were in. Ada and Chidi pretended to be playing outside, but they were really waiting for the right moment to sneak inside. As soon as Mama Uche stepped out to get more ingredients, they rushed into the kitchen. They searched everywhere until they found the small bottle hidden behind some pots. But just as Ada grabbed the bottle, they heard a voice behind them.
What do you think you are doing?
Mama Uche's voice was cold and sharp. Ada and Chidi froze. They slowly turned around to see Mama Uche standing in the doorway, her eyes glowing with anger. Mama Uche stepped closer to them, her hand reaching out for the bottle. Ada and Chidi knew they were in big trouble. Just when it seemed like they had no escape, something unexpected happened. Mama Uche reached out to grab the bottle, but just as her fingers were about to touch it, Ada felt a warm sensation in her hand. The bottle began to glow brighter and brighter until it was almost too bright to look at. Suddenly, there was a loud crack, like thunder, and the bottle shattered into a million tiny pieces. Mama Uche screamed in pain, clutching her hand as dark smoke started to rise from her body.
What have you done?
She yelled, her voice echoing through the room. The dark smoke began to swirl around her, wrapping her in a thick, black cloud. Ada and Chidi backed away, terrified by what they were seeing. The whole room began to shake, and the ground beneath their feet felt like it was going to give way. Then, with one final, ear-piercing scream, Mama Uche and the dark smoke disappeared into thin air. For a moment, everything was still. The restaurant was quiet, and the only sound was Ada and Chidi's heavy breathing. They couldn't believe what had just happened. Had they really defeated Mama Uche? Suddenly, the door to the kitchen burst open, and the villagers rushed in. They had heard the strange noises and came to see what was going on. Ada and Chidi looked around in confusion. The pots, pans, and the tables were back in their places. It was as if nothing had happened.
"Where is Mama Uche?"
One of the villagers asked. Ada and Chidi exchanged glances, unsure of what to say.
She left.
Chidi finally said. The villagers looked around the restaurant, confused but relieved that nothing seemed wrong. "Thank goodness," said another villager. "We were worried something bad had happened." The villagers began to leave, whispering to each other about the strange events, but Ada and Chidi knew the truth. They had destroyed the source of Mama Uche's dark magic, but they still had so many questions. Why did the bottle shatter when Ada touched it? What happened to Mama Uche? And most importantly, was the village truly safe now? As they walked back home, Ada and Chidi agreed to keep the story of what happened between them. They didn't want to scare the other villagers, but they also knew they had to be on guard. They could never be sure if another evil like Mama Uche would return. When they finally reached Ada's house, Chidi turned to her and said, "We did something important today. We protected our village. But we have to be ready, just in case." Ada nodded. "We'll be ready together." The next day, Ada and Chidi went to the forest to bury the glowing bottle. As they dug a hole, the trees around them seemed to whisper in the wind. The deeper they dug, the more uneasy they felt, as if someone or something was watching them. Suddenly, they heard a rustling sound behind them. They both froze, their hearts pounding in their chests. Slowly, they turned around and saw the mysterious figure standing at the edge of the clearing. The figure was cloaked in a long, dark robe, with a hood covering its face. But there was something familiar about the way it stood, the way it tilted its head slightly, as if it was studying them. "Who are you?" Ada called out, trying to sound brave. But her voice shook. The figure stepped closer, and as it did, the hood fell back, revealing a face they recognized all too well. It was Mama Uche, but not the warm, smiling woman they had known. Her eyes were cold and lifeless, her skin pale and gaunt, and her lips twisted into a cruel smile.
You thought you could get rid of me so easily.
Mama Uche hissed, her voice echoing through the clearing.
You only destroyed the bottle, but you didn't destroy me. Now, you've brought me something even more powerful.
Chidi tightened his grip on the shovel, stepping protectively in front of Ada.
"We won't let you hurt anyone,"
he shouted. Mama Uche laughed, a harsh, grating sound that sent chills down their spines.
You are too late. The spirit in that bottle is stronger than you can imagine. And now that you've dug it up, it will be free to do my bidding.
Without warning, the ground beneath them began to tremble. The glowing bottle shook violently in Ada's hands, and a dark, swirling mist began to seep out from the cracks in the seal. The mist coiled and twisted, taking shape in front of them, forming a massive, shadowy figure with fiery red eyes. The spirit was free. Mama Uche raised her hands, chanting in the strange, ancient language she had used before. The spirit turned its glowing eyes toward her, but instead of obeying, it roared in anger, shaking the trees and sending a powerful gust of wind through the forest. Ada and Chidi realized with horror that the spirit was not under Mama Uche's control. It was enraged, and it would destroy everything in its path.
Mama Uche,
Ada shouted,
you have to stop this. You can't control it.
but Mama Uche was too far gone, consumed by her own greed for power. She continued to chant, but the spirit ignored her, its anger growing stronger with each passing second. It began to move toward the village, leaving a trail of destruction in its wake. Ada and Chidi knew they had to act fast. They couldn't let the spirit reach the village. But what could they do? The spirit was too powerful to fight in that moment. Ada remembered the small Bible in her pocket. She pulled it out of her pocket. She began to read the scriptures.
Chidi, help me.
Ada yelled, holding up the Bible. Together, they began to speak in tongues. The spirit paused, its fiery eyes narrowing as it sensed the power of the word of God. It turned its gaze toward Ada and Chidi, letting out a deafening roar that shook the ground. The wind whipped around them, tearing at their clothes and sending leaves flying, but Ada and Chidi stood their ground, their voices growing stronger as they continued to pray. The Bible in Ada's hand grew brighter, the light pushing back against the darkness of the spirit. Mama Uche, realizing too late that she had lost control, tried to stop them, but the spirit turned on her, lashing out with tendrils of dark energy. She screamed as the spirit engulfed her, and in an instant, both Mama Uche and the spirit disappeared and everywhere went still. The spirit was gone. Ada and Chidi collapsed to the ground, exhausted but relieved. The village was safe. Mama Uche's evil had been defeated for good. As they made their way back to the village, the first light of dawn began to break through the trees. The village of Amara was peaceful once more, with no sign of the terror that had nearly consumed it. Ada and Chidi looked at each other, knowing that they had done something truly extraordinary. They never spoke of what happened in the forest that night, but they were happy that God answered their prayers and the word of God never fails. And so, life in Amara returned to normal. The villagers never knew the full extent of what had happened, and Mama Uche's name faded into legend. But Ada and Chidi would always remember the night they faced the evil cook, and the dark spirit that could have destroyed them all. Please guys, like, share, comment and follow for more beautiful stories. Thank you.